sometimes that person that stalks you and that really just, spies and spends all that extra time wondering what you're doing is someone that you don't A, necessarily have a relationship with, or B, it's a person that you would least expect. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist, and I've done a ton of videos about stalking already with you all. And we have the usual suspects of people that ghosted us. We have baby daddies, baby mamas, ex-husbands, ex-wives, exes or things like that. People that we know are stalking us, right? That are spying on our social media. But there's also people that you would never suspect that could be watching you, paying attention to you, just sort of snooping around, trying to find personal information about you, keeping tabs on you. And if I may, I'll share a little story to kind of demonstrate what I talk about. I've shared with you all many times over. I used to work for the Department of Corrections, and yeah, at the Department of Corrections, I was one of four or five African American clinicians that worked there. So very small group of us. It was a good old boy atmosphere, and one day I came into work and it was right around election time. And, I remember, some of the officers that I worked with telling me, we voted for Trump. We don't want DEI here. So Jones, don't go getting any ideas and that sort of stuff. Right. And, all right, whatever. I don't care. Do you. And, but they made it a point to let me know that I need to know my place essentially, and I'm giving you the good version of events, and that was sort of something that they reiterated every day: know your place. And then one day I came in, and then they're talking to me, and they're telling me, "Oh, I listened to a Date with Darkness podcast, which is my podcast, right?" And they're telling me all these things about how they've researched me and they looked me up. These are people that had no problem telling me, stay in my place. And so, but here they are telling me, "Oh, they're looking me up." And then I just finally said, "You guys need to stop being creepy and weird, and stop stalking me." And they're like, I'm a certified creep, Jones. I'm a certified creep, and it would be something along that, or it would be something along the lines of, there's nothing wrong with a little friendly stalking, and I can't let my wife keep me from finding my next girlfriend, that kind of stuff. Or I did, an ancestry, and I'm 0.0025% African American. It would be some sort of taunting in that way, where it was like, yeah, I'm a stalker, so what? That kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes I say all this to let you know that sometimes the person who watches you the most could be the person that, kind of goes out of their way to tell you that you're not it. You need to stay in your lane and this and that. They want to try to exert their authority over you, but they're still very curious about you and want to keep tabs on you and your information. Matter of fact, those guys are probably, probably some of my biggest supporters now, probably engage with my content more than anybody else, just because they were so curious. And I was the type of person I never talked about, like when I worked at corrections, I never talked about what I did outside of corrections. But, they would always know what I'm doing outside of corrections, because, and this goes beyond corrections officers. This would be management, everybody there. They would, they would make it their business to kind of know and keep tabs on, what I'm doing. And, yeah, I even got hauled in one time, by one of the managers, and they were like, "Oh, we see that you're doing this presentation for another company, and just to let you know, we won't allow you to do that. Like, you can't do that." And they already knew I had a practice and things like that. So they were essentially trying to pull rank and say, "You know what? If you work here, you can't do anything outside of that." That A, should have been a sign that I should have left right then and there, but B, that just lets you know how closely people are watching you and watching your business. And C, sometimes they don't want you to succeed outside of their organization. They want all of your time, effort, and energy to go to that organization and nothing else. So, anyway, that's just my story. Hope that helps. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much. And let me know what you guys think.